Welcome to Imaginary Lands, the works of award-winning author and storyteller Bobby Pell. Today's selection, Moonstone, a Celtic Romantic Mystery, is a story steeped in misconceptions and new insights of the heart, beginning with a tragedy at sea.
Somebody, please. Then silence. The unknown pleas penetrated the thin veneer between reality and dreams. She stirred, unable to find a peaceful position. Bullets of rain pelted the leaves of her hut, while the wind cursed the earth with its rage. She curled into a ball and slept. The morning rose, as did she. On her walk, she noticed broken branches strewn carelessly on the ground, resembling an abruptly abandoned child's game of pick-up sticks. Stones in familiar rows now formed chaotic patterns. The night's destruction had passed, but the signs of its presence remained. She moved slowly along the path, almost floating over the rooted route, in search of vestiges or victims of the storm. A slight rustle in the leaves startled her. It seemed to be coming from somewhere ahead. It's just the wind, she thought. Pressing on, she heard the sound again. An injured animal, perhaps? With a sense of urgency, she strayed from the path. Her gossamer gown, as fine and white as spider silk, tangled in fallen grapevines and tree limbs. She followed the sound until she found him. His head lay nestled between heavy mosses and timothy blooms, while long golden locks like summer wheat concealed his face. His shirt, once white, was now stained with blotches of earthen tones mingled with rusty reds. It was soaked with rains from the storm. The shredded shirt revealed muscles well acquainted with struggles and endless days at sea. The black knickers hung loosely about his legs, while the red sash twisted in lines of confusion over his hips. With one knee bent heavenward and one knee resting, he slept. She sat beside him. Careful not to disturb him, she smoothed away the hair from his forehead. She followed the contours of his face with her fingertips, ever so gently, memorizing every rise and fall. He readjusted himself beneath her touch, wrapping his arms around her waist and snuggling into her lap. She whispered soft strains of ancient lullabies that enveloped him like a mantle, and once again he slept. His reverie began to dim as night fell and the stars rose high in the sky. He stirred. When he opened his eyes, an intensive hazel-green stare greeted him. Her gentle smile, framed by long brown strands of feather-light hair, assured him of safety. He tried to rise, but immediately fell into her lap, doubling over in pain. His screams of agony pierced the night. Carefully supporting his shoulders, she searched for the source of his injury. She gently unbuttoned his shirt, then shrank back in horror. 2 large slivers of splintered wood lay deeply embedded in his chest. The puncture wounds surrounded his heart, one above, one below. An arch of torn flesh connected the 2 holes, resembling a half-moon encircling his heart. He tried to speak, but the pain was too great. Calming him, the wood nymph put her arms around his waist, cradling his head upon her shoulder, and ever so slowly walked him to her home. Although her hut was nearby, the journey was long. Several times the stranger would raise his head, moaning like an injured wolf, then heavily sink into her shoulder. They would stand, waiting for the pain to subside before continuing. Finally, they saw the thatching of her roof. Inside, a simple mat of thistledown and straw covered with a white cotton spread provided comfort for the stranger. The nymph arranged pillows filled with rose petals beneath his head, then built a fire. The stranger watched her nimble fingers bring the wood to a soothing glow. She often turned and smiled at him, her eyes full of questions, yet she never spoke. She motioned for him to lie still and momentarily left the hut. Upon her return, he saw her arms laden with roots and herbs. She set a pot of water over the fire, then added her ingredients. Soon the mixture was boiling, popping in spurts like volcanic eruptions. With a tenderness and giving he had never known, she cleaned his wounds. She spoke words of comfort in a language unknown to him, yet somehow he understood her every thought. Something older than time himself bonded the two together. The aroma of the mixture reminded the stranger of bonfires from days long ago. A stifling sweetness permeated the air like a thick fog. She removed the pot from the fire and placed it beside the mat. It was time. With all her courage, she yanked the splinters upward, wrenching the wooden shards from their beds of flesh. His cry rang out in primal terror. The blood spurted like fire burst, raining down his chest. She felt his pain. Her tears mingled with his blood as she quickly patted the thickened mixture into a poultice over the rugged wounds. She placed both of her hands over his heart and began to sing, quietly sing. Ugiam zagrian sanspe falio ugorawe spun thuasum mon moclay falio ugorawe la Yalmo gravd all shade and thrall, called Arim vak shade and or, Yale mirs blastak beol, skarum klar arvushka soran. Ugiam zagrian sanspe falio ugorawe spun thuasum mon moclay falio ugorawe la. Almost miraculously, the blood ceased. She sang graceful, lilting verses filled with healing, which lingered in the air like butterflies, and then the stranger fell into a deep sleep. For days he slept. The nymph never left his side. She changed the poultice twice a day and cooled his body with spring water. During times of restlessness, she played her flute or sang softly to him. She fed him lotus blossoms dipped in honey and herbal tea. As he began to feel stronger, she gathered nuts, fruits, and berries. Often she boiled them into compotes and served them on simple breads. He soon became strong enough to venture into the woods for short strolls. They walked hand in hand, absorbing the sounds of the forest. She told him of her world. He listened. The novelty of her ways intrigued him. Treachery, deceit, and self-preservation had been his constant companions. Love was always a stranger. But something was changing deep inside. He found himself awakening to thoughts and feelings he had never known. He often pulled her close to him, kissing her eager lips so full of anticipation. Embracing her was like holding life itself in his arms. At night, they curled together by the fire till the embers burned low, each spinning tales and poems to the delight of the other. They watched bottle flies, iridescent orbs of green, flit, then blink in the moonlit sky. She smiled. He smiled. Then they dreamed together. She saw in him a depth of soul rarely experienced, much less shared, peeking around the corners of the many roles he played. Pirate, poet, lover, and friend. He was all of those, and more. One night, when the moon was full, she picked up a stone near the fire's edge. It looked milky white, with patches of transparency sprinkled like salt on its surface. She knew it by name, Moonstone. The stranger watched with curiosity as she closed her eyes, fiercely clutching the stone in her hand. She placed her hand over her heart and sang. There me oh, there me oh, there me oh, Smith vo från stugan mi, nam bekrama Grecian glon, hanix naimer mokri, vanak duo da love, smi andul nakumi, there me oh, there me oh, there me oh, Smith vo från stugan mi, fairest love of my heart, fairest love of my heart, fairest love of my heart, I am sad without thee. He trembled as he listened. He noticed that the stone shimmered in the moonlight as if glowing in response to her gift. She held the stone in her upturned hand towards heaven in prayer. Then, slowly facing him, she extended her palm and offered him the stone. Yours, she said. Remember, once loved, always loved. He took the stone and slipped it into his pocket. He took the maiden and slipped into the night. Hey, mate, we thought you were dead. About time you woke up. What? said the sailor, rubbing his eyes as if to clear his vision. "We couldn't get your fever down the way you're thrashing about. Nearly killed old Cookie when he tried to feed you, too." "What are you talking about? Where is she?"
"She? Don't we all wish we had a woman on board this godforsaken ship?"
No, you don't understand. The woman of the woods. Where is she?"
"I don't know who you're talking about. Woman of the woods? You've been lying right here for 2 weeks, just as sick as could be. Nearly died after that storm. Took a nasty knot on your head."
No, my chest. The 2 holes." He quickly ripped open his shirt where he knew a scar should be, yet the flesh was whole, without a scratch. "Can you take me up top? I think I need some fresh air." The mate helped him to his feet, up the ladder, and into the moonlight. The sailor leaned heavily against the rail, trying to make some sense out of his situation. Had she been real? Would he ever see her again? What really happened to him that night of the storm? He jammed his hands into his trouser pockets, not knowing what to think. He looked to Orion for answers, but the stars were silent. The fullness of the moon twinkled in broken lines upon the waves. Then he felt it. His fingers released their anxiety as he curled them around the familiar shape, pulling it from his pocket. It was the stone, her stone. It radiated beneath his touch. Suddenly, a wind enveloped him while a voice whispered, "Once loved, always loved." He stared at the moon. A bittersweet smile crept across his face while a single tear slid down his cheek.